Imagine a land where restless earth meets endless sky, where snow-cloaked volcanoes stand like ancient guardians, and emerald forests breathe with mist and rain. This is Washington State, a realm shaped by fire, ice, and time itself. Here, rivers carve deep scars through basalt canyons. Here, wild coastlines whisper to the tide, and hidden lakes mirror spires of granite older than memory. Step softly into this story. Feel the cool air off mountain ridges. Hear the distant call of an eagle drifting over untamed waters. In this journey, we wander beyond cities and roads, following the secret pulse of a place that keeps surprising those who think they know it well. There is a mountain in Washington that feels alive. Mount Rainier, rising 14,410 feet, wrapped in glaciers that shimmer like shards of glass. On clear days, it hovers above the horizon like a dream, visible even from the bustle of Seattle. At sunrise, the summit glows pink and gold. At dusk, it dissolves into shadow. Its slopes cradle wildflower meadows in summer, lupines and avalanche lilies bending in alpine winds. Marmots whistle from boulders, deer graze quietly, and far above, the thin silver of waterfalls spills from hidden snowfields. Native peoples have long called this peak Tahoma, the mother of waters, a sacred source of life. Walking here, you feel that reverence. Every step a soft echo in a world older than memory. Travel east, and you'll hear a different kind of thunder. Palouse Falls, where ancient floods carved a basalt canyon and left a waterfall that plunges 200 feet into a misty bowl. The canyon walls are dark and sheer, streaked with lichens and the shadows of raptors gliding on thermals. Long before modern visitors arrived, the Palouse tribe called this place Aput, falling water, gathering here to fish and trade when salmon surged upriver. In the 20th century, a dam was proposed to silence the falls forever, but the people voted no. Today, the water still roars, echoing through the gorge, a wild heartbeat of the region. Standing on the rim, you feel the spray on your face and the hum of history all around. On the Pacific coast, where gray skies meet endless water, lies Rialto Beach. It is not a beach of soft sand, but of polished stones and scattered driftwood, each log bleached silver by salt and time. Sea stacks rise from the surf like ancient sentinels, and tide pools brim with starfish, anemones, and tiny crabs. The air is thick with the scent of seaweed and rain. Waves crash with a steady rhythm, shaking the ground beneath your feet. Here, the Pacific feels untamed. Fog rolls in like a curtain, gulls cry overhead, and the ocean's vastness stretches far beyond sight. Walking along the shore, you sense both danger and serenity, a frontier between land and endless sea. High in the North Cascades, you'll find waters so vividly turquoise they seem unreal. Diablo Lake. Born of a hydroelectric project in the 1920s, this reservoir carries a layered history, from rugged canyons once known as Box Canyon to the renamed Diablo Canyon. Locals call it the mood ring of lakes, shifting from jade to slate gray, depending on the light and minerals carried down by glacial rivers. Forested slopes descend steeply to the shoreline, where eagles circle and the wind whispers through pines. Paddle out into its center and the world falls silent, except for the soft lapping of water against your boat. It feels untouched, even though it powers cities far away, a testament to how wildness and human ambition can sometimes intertwine. On the southern edge of Puget Sound, Tacoma grew from tide flats and forests into a city of grit and grace. Long before railroads and mills, the Puyallup people lived along these shores, fishing salmon and building seasonal camps. Their songs and stories linger in the air. By the late 19th century, Tacoma became the western terminus of the Northern Pacific Railway. Timber mills lined the waterfront, their smoke rising over Commencement Bay. Churches like the First Presbyterian rose with tall spires, while red brick warehouses anchored the downtown. Today, Tacoma is a blend of old and new. Historic districts hum with galleries and coffee shops, while cranes still move at the port, loading ships bound for distant seas. Standing on the Foss Waterway at sunset, you can watch the city lights flicker on, each reflection rippling across the dark water, Tacoma's past and present meeting in the glow. At the very edge of the continent, where the Pacific Ocean collides with the Columbia River, stands Cape Disappointment, a name born from an explorer's frustration, but a place that feels anything but disappointing. The headland is rugged and restless, with steep cliffs wrapped in wind-bent trees. Fog drifts like ghosts, curling around the historic lighthouse perched high on Tatoosh Island, its Fresnel lens once cutting through storms to guide sailors home. This is the graveyard of the Pacific, a stretch of water that has swallowed ships for centuries. Waves crash against basalt outcroppings with a roar that shakes your chest. Stand here on a winter day and feel the spray on your cheeks. Taste the salt, and watch as seabirds circle endlessly in the shifting gray light. The Makah people have long guarded this coast, and you sense their presence in the quiet trails leading through dripping forests to the edge of the world. Far inland, beyond golden hills and orchard valleys, lies Lake Chelan, a glacial fjord carved deep into the Cascade foothills. Its waters run long and narrow, 50 miles of mirrored blue framed by ridges of pine and granite. Early tribes crossed these waters in cedar canoes, fishing for salmon in a lake so clear you can see pebbles far below the surface. In the late 1800s, steamboats like the Lady of the Lake became lifelines, carrying settlers and goods to remote homesteads. The winds that sweep down the valley still ripple the surface, and at night, the stars scatter like silver dust across the sky. Today, vineyards climb the hillsides, replacing old orchards. Sip local wine on a dock at sunset, and you'll see the water glow gold, a stillness settling over the valley as the last light fades. Rising above Seattle's skyline like a vision from another time, the Space Needle remains a symbol of possibility. Built for the 1962 World's Fair, its slender legs and saucer-shaped top look ready to lift off into the stars. From 605 feet above, the view unfolds in every direction. The Cascades to the east, the Olympic Mountains to the west, and the deep blue of Puget Sound stretching far beyond. Step onto the rotating glass floor and feel the city slide beneath your feet. Down below, ferries carve white lines through the water, and city streets hum with life. At night, the tower glows against the dark, a beacon of Seattle's restless creativity. Rain or shine, standing in its observation deck makes you feel part of something bigger, a story of innovation and dreams that still ripple through the Pacific Northwest. North of Seattle, tucked between saltwater and forested hills, lies Bellingham, a city with roots both rugged and artistic. Long ago, the Coast Salish peoples thrived here, fishing the bay and gathering shellfish from rocky shores. In the late 1800s, the Fraser River Gold Rush brought thousands through this quiet bay, their hopes and supplies crowding the docks. Today, Bellingham carries that adventurous spirit in calmer ways. Downtown streets hum with coffee shops, murals, and bookstores. Just beyond, old railway lines trace the waterfront, where herons stalk the shallows at sunrise. This is a city where industry meets wild beauty. Kayakers glide through misty inlets, while ferries depart for the San Juan Islands. The air smells of cedar and seaweed, a promise that the wilderness is never far away. High in the Alpine Lakes wilderness, hidden beyond miles of rocky trail, lies Kolchak Lake. When you arrive, it takes your breath away, a jewel-toned basin cradled by jagged granite peaks. Early climbers named those ridges the Dragon's Backbone, weaving stories of mythical guardians. On a still day, the water mirrors every detail, the snowfields clinging to cliffs, the shadow of a passing eagle, the sharp contrast of sky and stone. In winter, the lake freezes, its surface etched by wind and snow, a dangerous but mesmerizing world for backcountry adventurers. In summer, wildflowers bloom in meadows along the trail, and the sound of distant waterfalls echoes through the valley. Sit on a boulder by the shore, and you'll feel the weight of time, the hush of a landscape that has remained unchanged for centuries, raw, remote, and unforgettable. On the northwestern edge of the state, Olympic National Park unfolds like three worlds stitched together. Along the rugged coast, wind and tide sculpt sea stacks that rise like ancient sentinels from crashing waves. Inland, the Olympic Mountains lift their jagged crowns into clouds, glaciers catching the last rays of sun in pink and gold. And deeper still, the temperate rainforests breathe in perpetual green, moss-draped maples bowing under centuries of growth. Walk beneath those towering giants and hear the soft patter of rain on fern fronds, the distant call of a thrush, the deep hush that seems to slow your heartbeat. The park is both wild and gentle, coastlines littered with driftwood, rivers fed by ice and snow, alpine meadows where deer graze at dawn. It is a sanctuary where time stretches wide and every trail leads to wonder. East of Seattle, where forested hills cradle ancient stories, Snoqualmie Falls plunges in a sheer white veil, roaring into the valley below. The Snoqualmie people call this place sacred, believing its mist carries prayers to the spirit world. Stand at the overlook and feel the rumble in your chest, the spray on your face, and you understand why generations have been drawn here. In the late 19th century, engineers harnessed its power, building one of the first underground hydroelectric plants. Yet the falls retain their wild soul, especially after rain when the river swells and the cascade thunders with raw strength. As you follow the river trail, sunlight filters through cedar branches, and the roar softens to a constant hum, like the heartbeat of the land itself. In the city of Tacoma, amid modern buildings and busy streets, the First Presbyterian Church stands like a story carved in stone. Its Gothic Revival spires pierce the skyline, and stained glass windows catch the light of afternoon, scattering jewel tones across the pews. Built in the late 19th century by settlers yearning for community and faith, the church became a gathering place not only for worship, but for solace during turbulent times. Listen closely, and you can almost hear the echo of its historic bell, salvaged from the original structure and still ringing on Sundays. That same bell once called neighbors to help one another during fires and floods. Within these walls, history lingers in the scent of old wood and the hush between hymns. It is a reminder that even in a city shaped by industry, there is space for reflection and reverence. South of North Bend, the trail to Rattlesnake Ledge winds through forests rich with moss and ancient glacial scars. It's a climb that tests your legs and quickens your breath. But when you step onto the ledge, the world opens wide. Below you lies Rattlesnake Lake, a deep green jewel surrounded by valleys and rolling hills. Beyond, the Cascade foothills fade into blue layers on the horizon. The name, born from a pioneer's misunderstanding of rustling seed pods, feels fitting once you hear the wind whistle through pines and sweep across the cliff. Sunrise paints the rocks in warm golds and reds, while sunset softens them to dusky purples. Hikers sit quietly at the edge, legs dangling over nothing, soaking in a view that feels endless and alive. In the heart of Bellevue, bordered by highways and modern high-rises, lies Mercer Slough Nature Park, a freshwater wetland that feels like stepping into another world. Wooden boardwalks weave through cattails and reeds, and waterways mirror the silhouettes of great blue herons gliding silently overhead. Beavers shape channels, dragonflies skim the surface, and the hum of city life fades into a distant murmur. This wetland is a testament to preservation. Once threatened by development, it now thrives as a living corridor for wildlife in the midst of urban sprawl. Paddle a canoe through its still channels at dawn, and watch the mist rise from the water, glowing gold in the morning light. In that quiet moment, you realize how nature endures, even in the most unexpected places. Far to the north, Mount Baker rises like a sleeping giant above forests and winding rivers. Its snow-laden shoulders gleam under the morning sun, and in winter, the mountain becomes a cathedral of ice and powder. Skiers carve across slopes that hold world records for snowfall, each turn a dance through glistening white. Though dormant now, Mount Baker is alive in subtle ways. Steam vents whisper from hidden fissures, and on clear days the summit's crown glows against a cobalt sky. Locals call it the Shy Mountain because clouds often cling to its peak, guarding its face until the wind sweeps them away. On those rare, clear afternoons, you can see its profile from miles around, a reminder of the ancient forces that built this land and still rest beneath its surface. South of Bellingham, Chuckanut Drive winds like a ribbon between sandstone cliffs and a restless sea. This historic route, carved into bluffs in the early 1900s, offers sweeping views of the San Juan Islands and the shimmer of distant horizons. The road twists sharply, shadowed by old firs, then suddenly opens to sunlit bays where waves lap against polished stones. Travelers pause at overlooks, leaning on railings as the wind tugs at their jackets. Freight trains snake along the shoreline far below, their whistles echoing off rock faces. In autumn, maples ignite in crimson and gold, their leaves drifting across the asphalt like a slow rain. Every bend on Chuckanut Drive feels like an invitation to slow down and witness the meeting of earth, water, and sky. Above those cliffs, a trail climbs through mossy woods to Fragrance Lake, a still pond cradled by evergreen ridges. Despite its serene beauty, the name carries a twist of irony. Pioneers christened it after the pungent skunk cabbage that blooms along its shore each spring. Yet when you stand at its edge, the air is cool and clean, scented by cedar and damp earth. The lake's surface mirrors treetops and passing clouds, creating a dreamlike symmetry. Hikers often rest here, letting the breeze ripple across the water and carry the sound of distant birds. In winter, frost clings to the boardwalks and branches, and the lake becomes a quiet refuge, wrapped in silver mist. Fragrance Lake is proof that even the smallest places can hold a universe of calm. In the heart of Seattle's modern skyline, the Amazon spheres rise like glass orbs from a city of steel. Step inside and you're enveloped by a different climate entirely, a curated jungle humming with life. Over 40,000 plants from around the world grow under the curved panels, from towering ficus trees to delicate orchids. Walkways spiral upward, leading to quiet nooks where employees hold meetings surrounded by greenery, or simply pause to breathe in the scent of living earth. A waterfall tumbles through one sphere, mist cooling the air, while the bustle of traffic outside fades to a distant murmur. The spheres are a reminder that even in an urban heart, nature can be woven back into daily life, offering calm and inspiration amid the rush of a modern city. Southwest of Seattle, the city of Olympia spreads along Puget Sound's edge, crowned by the stately dome of the Washington State Capitol. Built in the early 20th century, its marble steps and classical columns were designed to speak of strength and vision. Inside, murals depict the region's history, forests, ships, and people who shaped the state. Outside, manicured gardens cradle memorials to workers and veterans. From the steps, the view stretches to the water, where tides shift in glimmering patterns, just as they did when the area was a bustling indigenous trading ground centuries ago. Olympia blends the rhythm of government with the serenity of nature. On quiet evenings, as the sun sets behind the dome, the city feels suspended between history and possibility. On the western edge of the Olympic Peninsula lies the Hoh Rainforest, a realm where time slows and the air itself feels alive. Towering Sitka spruces and western hemlocks rise like ancient pillars, their trunks cloaked in emerald moss. Ferns unfurl from the forest floor, and the steady patter of rain nourishes everything in a soft rhythm. Walk along the Hall of Mosses Trail, and you step into a cathedral of green. Shafts of light pierce the canopy, illuminating threads of mist drifting between branches. The Hoh River glides through the valley, born from glaciers high in the mountains, its cold waters weaving silver ribbons through the undergrowth. Here, every breath tastes of earth and rain, and every step reminds you of life's quiet persistence. Stretching like a living map of waterways, Puget Sound ties together towns, cities, and wild shores. Its tides are bold and unpredictable, rising and falling with a force that sculpts tidal flats and eelgrass beds. Seals bob among fishing boats, and the distant cry of gulls blends with the hum of ferries crossing the water. Centuries ago, these waters carried cedar canoes, linking indigenous communities in trade and ceremony. Later, they became highways for steamers and log rafts as settlers arrived. Today, ferries still glide across the Sound, their decks crowded with travelers watching the sun sink behind the Olympics. The air smells of salt and cedar smoke, and the water mirrors shifting skies, steel gray in winter, deep blue on summer afternoons. Puget Sound is both a passageway and a heartbeat of Washington. In the southern Cascades, Mount St. Helens looms with a broken crown, a reminder of nature's sudden power. On May 18, 1980, its north flank collapsed in a roar that shook the earth. A lateral blast swept through forests, flattening them in seconds. Ash turned day to night, and pyroclastic flows raced down the slopes at unimaginable speed. Yet even in devastation, life returned. Wildflowers pushed through the gray soil within months, and elk wandered among fallen trunks. Today, hikers stand at viewpoints overlooking the crater, where a new dome grows slowly within. The mountain feels both haunted and hopeful, a place where destruction and renewal are woven together, telling a story only the land can hold. East of Seattle lies Lake Sammamish, a long freshwater lake that draws families, anglers, and paddlers to its calm surface. Morning light glints off ripples, and in summer the air hums with laughter and the splash of oars. Herons stalk the shallows while bass and trout move beneath the lily pads. The lake anchors local communities, offering a stretch of nature within reach of busy roads and neighborhoods. Its shores carry the echoes of older times, when indigenous people fished these waters and gathered along its banks. Today, kayaks skim across at sunset, leaving soft trails of light on the water, and the lake's gentle rhythm becomes a refuge from city life. Southwest near Tacoma, Steilacoom Lake spreads like a mirror beneath tall pines. Early morning mist drifts above the surface, blurring the line between water and sky. This lake once served as a vital fishing and trade route for native tribes, its waters alive with salmon runs. Later, settlers built mills along its edges, their saws echoing through the woods. Now the lake is a place of quiet recreation. Canoes glide silently, and the distant splash of a jumping fish ripples outward. On still evenings, the water turns molten gold, reflecting the sinking sun. Steilacoom Lake whispers of history, resilience, and the timeless pull of still waters. On the edge of the Chuckanut foothills lies Larrabee Beach, a shoreline strewn with smooth stones that shift and clatter under the tides. Each stone has been shaped by centuries of waves, polished into subtle hues of gray, jade, and rust. When the tide recedes, hidden pools glimmer in the sunlight, revealing starfish, anemones, and tiny crabs moving among seaweed. Stories linger here of Martha, a solitary settler who once lived in a driftwood cabin and walked these shores gathering shells. On calm evenings, the sunset casts fire across the bay, the horizon melting into bands of orange and violet. The air smells of salt and cedar smoke, and the rhythmic sound of water against stone becomes a kind of music, a lullaby only the coast knows. Travel to the northwesternmost tip of the continental United States, and you'll stand at Cape Flattery, where the Pacific Ocean collides with the Strait of Juan de Fuca. Rugged cliffs drop into swirling waters, carved by centuries of storms into sea caves and arches. The wind carries the cries of seabirds and the scent of brine. Here, the Makah people have lived for generations, their stories woven into the land and sea. A lighthouse still stands on nearby Tatoosh Island, its light once a beacon for sailors braving these treacherous waters. On foggy mornings, the world feels ethereal, the line between sea and sky blurred. Standing at the wooden lookout, you sense the pulse of the ocean below, powerful and endless. Nestled at the base of Rattlesnake Ledge lies Rattlesnake Lake, calm and mysterious, its shoreline traced by weathered stumps that emerge when the water is low. Over a century ago, this land was home to a bustling mining town. Then, a sudden engineering mishap in 1915 flooded the valley, submerging homes, roads, and lives beneath the surface. On misty mornings, the lake feels haunted yet peaceful. Canoes cut across the glassy water, their paddles dipping silently. In autumn, the surrounding forest glows with amber and gold, mirrored in the lake's depths. The whispers of history drift with the breeze, reminders that even still waters hold hidden stories. High in the Cascades, Bridal Veil Falls tumbles in silver ribbons over dark rock, its spray catching the light like countless diamonds. The name suits it. Delicate strands of water drifting on the wind, soft as fabric. In spring, snowmelt swells the falls into a roaring cascade, filling the air with a cool mist that dampens your face and carries the scent of pine and wet earth. The trail leading to the falls winds through moss-laden trees and remnants of old railroad tracks, echoes of a time when logging shaped these mountains. Standing at the base, you hear nothing but the roar of water and the heartbeat of the land itself, a reminder of nature's unrelenting rhythm. Far inland, Spokane rises along the river that shares its name, a city born where indigenous fishing grounds once thrived. For thousands of years, the Spokane people lived by these waters, casting nets for salmon and gathering roots from the meadows. Then came fur traders, missionaries, and settlers, drawn by the river's power and the promise of industry. In time, sawmills and railroads reshaped the landscape. The city's historic clock tower still stands, a remnant of the Great Northern Railway depot, ticking steadily through decades of change. Walk downtown and you'll hear the thunder of Spokane Falls splitting the river in two, its spray misting the air even in summer. Lilac blooms scent the spring, lining the streets with color. And every corner tells a layered story of resilience, reinvention, and a river that never stopped flowing. At the heart of Spokane, the river divides and plunges into Spokane Falls, a powerful rush of white water framed by the city's historic core. In spring, when snowmelt swells the river, the falls roar so loudly you feel the vibration through the ground. Mist rises in shifting veils, carrying the cool scent of wet stone and pine needles. Long before the city grew around it, this was a sacred site for the Spokane people, who gathered to fish and trade at the fall's edge. Today, pedestrian bridges arch over the torrents, giving visitors a close view of churning water that once powered mills and illuminated street lamps. As evening light softens, the falls glow in orange and gold, a reminder that even in the center of a city, the wild remains. Just offshore from Bellingham's winding coastline rests a speck of land known as Dot Island. Barely 5 acres in size, It hides among blue-gray waters like a secret known only to the tide. Old-growth evergreens rise from its heart, their roots gripping mossy stone. The island is a protected preserve, where seabirds nest in peace and seals sometimes haul out on the rocky ledges. Kayakers glide quietly around its perimeter, awed by the stillness and the cries of gulls circling above. On calm mornings, the water mirrors the island perfectly, creating the illusion of floating in a world untethered. Its name is simple, almost whimsical, but standing near it, you sense how something so small can feel timeless. To the west, just beyond Lake Washington, the modern rise of Bellevue gleams against the sky. Glass towers reflect clouds and sun, marking a transformation from fields to a thriving urban hub. Long ago, this land was tended by pioneers and Japanese-American farmers who grew strawberries in neat rows. The air once smelled of earth and fruit blossoms. Now, the city hums with commerce and culture. Yet reminders of its roots linger in places like Mercer Slough's wetlands and quiet neighborhood streets. From the waterfront, you can watch the skyline light up at dusk, the glow of offices and homes twinkling like constellations. Bellevue stands as proof that a city can grow while still holding echoes of its past. Travel south and you reach the edge of Columbia River Gorge, a canyon so vast and wild it feels like stepping into another realm. Here, the Columbia River carves a deep path between Washington and Oregon, its winds sweeping fiercely through basalt cliffs. On the western side, emerald forests cling to the slopes. On the eastern end, golden grasses ripple in the sun. The wind is legendary, gusts strong enough to tilt trees and challenge even seasoned windsurfers who race across the river's silver surface. Stand at a viewpoint and feel that wind on your face, carrying the scent of river water and sun-warmed stone. Eagles ride the currents high above while the river glides endlessly below, whispering stories carved through millennia. Finally, we arrive in Seattle, a city cradled between mountain ranges and waterways, vibrant with life and legend. The salt air from Puget Sound mingles with the aroma of roasted coffee drifting from countless cafes. Streets slope toward the water, where ferries glide to distant islands and seaplanes buzz overhead. Seattle's roots run deep. Indigenous peoples thrived here long before settlers arrived, drawing salmon from rivers and honoring the land. Today, the city hums with creativity, music, and innovation. The skyline rises above the harbor, crowned by the futuristic Space Needle, while rain drizzles softly, turning the streets slick and glimmering. Seattle feels alive, like the rhythm of the tides themselves, restless, enduring, endlessly surprising. As daylight fades, the mountains sink into blue shadow. Waves fold gently against rocky shores. Far off, a lighthouse turns its patient light, and rivers keep moving, carrying the voices of ages. Washington is not just a state on the map. It is a living breath of earth and sky, a place where stories are carved in stone and water, where resilience blooms after fire, and where every hidden trail leads to wonder. Carry this feeling with you. Let the memory of wild forests and bright lakes rest in your heart. And when the road calls again, may you find yourself standing beneath these same skies, ready to discover all over again the quiet magic of Washington State.